Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. We are going to be drafting a 3-piece cup for our sports bra. So grab your pattern. So this is the back band I'll use for this front pattern. It's the one with a straight line at the side. So the first thing we're going to do is grab our tape measure and mark 1 inch from the waistline at the center front. So that's 1 inch away from my center front. And then at the neckline, I'm going to mark 2 inches away from the center front. And my marking will be where my neckline is. There it is. So those 2 points will guide me on drawing my first vertical seam. The second point will be where my notch used to be for my back band, which is 2 3/4 of an inch for me personally. The next point is going to be where the underarm is. For me, that's about 4.5 inches away, but you can estimate by going along your underarm area. And now I'm going to grab a straight ruler and draw my lines, which are going to divide my pattern into 3. And now I'm going to mark 1 centimeter below the apex, and I'm going to draw a straight line extending. So now I have a way of making sure my patterns line up. I'm first tracing the center front pattern and marking my center front. Marking it A. And I'm going to trace the second one. I'm going to label it B. And mark all of my markings, extend my lines, drawing the strap. Then I'm going to mark my C pattern. And when that's done, I have 3 separate pieces. So that's my side pattern. That's the one that goes in the middle. And the other one is my center front pattern. So now I'm going to add fullness. I have this chart and I'll write it in the description box. In my case, I'm dividing my full bust measurement, the difference between my full bust measurement and my underbust measurement. I'm going to divide that by 8 because we have 8 seam lines. So my full bust minus underbust is 4 inches. So 4 divided by 8 will give me half an inch. So I'm drawing marks half an inch away from my seam lines. Like I said, I will write that for all the cup sizes in the description box so that you don't get lost. And now I'm going to grab my curved ruler so I can add fullness to my cup patterns. I'm using the bottom part of my French curve. If you don't have a curved ruler, you can freehand this, or you can get one from www.growyourown.clothes.com. It's a free printable ruler. I have a short video about that. So my fullness needs to be just in the bottom area. So that's what my cup looks like. And now I'm going to use it as a guide to draw my other cup seams so that they line up when I sew. So I'm just aligning that mark and my diagonal line, my vertical line, and then I'm going to trace it. Now my lines look thick because I'm using a marker pen. I recommend you use a Sharpie or a ballpoint pen or a pencil so that your lines aren't too thick. And now I was going to draw the other seam using my curved ruler, and then I decided, why don't I just try using the pattern to continue as a guide. So I lined up my lines and then I'm tracing it. that gives me my other curve. And then I'm going to grab my A pattern, align those marks, and then trace out my curve. That way when I sew, everything will be aligned and easy to sew because all of my patterns match up. And now I'm going to erase my lines using some surgical spirit or isopropyl alcohol. I don't know what it's called in your country. So I'm just using a piece of cotton and I'm rubbing those guidelines, including the diagonal lines. That way you can see what my cup patterns look like. I've been using clear packaging from tissue rolls. That's why I get to trace my patterns out easily. I am adding 1 centimeter seam allowance at the seams. I know I'm freehanding this. I've gotten really good at marking a 1 cm seam allowance, but I recommend that you use a ruler for this. I'm pretty confident about mine, so I'm just winging it. After that, I am using the pattern to guide me to cut the seam allowance height for the other pattern. That way they match up at the top, like that. I know you can't see the seam allowance line there, but I'll make it thicker later. Doing the same for the side pattern. I'm just going to wing my 1 cm seam allowance. Like you can see here, I've gotten really good at estimating 1 cm seam allowance. If you use metric, that's 1 cm. If you use imperial measurements, that's 3/8 of an inch. So my seam allowance is 3/8 of an inch, in case you are curious. So I've finished adding seam allowance to my C piece and my A piece, and I'm just going to darken my lines here so you can see what's up. Once that's complete, I can rub my guidelines. I'm going to be using this back band pattern to sew up my test bra. I'll be placing the back band on fold, so I'm only going to cut 1. Then I'm going to cut 2 of my C pattern, 2 of my B pattern, and 1 of my A pattern, which I'm going to place on fold. To add a lining to your sports bra, you'll just repeat that process of cutting your fabrics. I hope you've enjoyed this series thus far. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video and in the comments. Bye!